Hey y'all, it's your girl Queenie here. How y'all doing tonight? I'm going to give you a few minutes to sign in. It is almost showtime. So if you're watching, whenever you do come on, make sure one that you give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you can hear me. And also, yeah, so let me know that you can hear me pretty good. Let's see. Hey girl, hey. I see that Joy is in the house. Can you hear me, girlfriend? Hope you can hear me well. I'm so excited that you're here. So if you all could just share this out for me. Um, yeah, share it out, share it out. Y'all hear me? See? We are live. We're good. We're good. So tonight, I know y'all saw the flyer. We are talking to an amazing author, Miss Melody Law. I couldn't be more excited, first of all. But secondly, thank you, Joy. Thank you so much, sweetheart. But secondly, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And what better person to bring on this show than Miss Melody Law, who is an author. Y'all probably saw me posting some things about her and her book. So I have the book right here. And I've been reading. I read the book when I was in Vegas. So for y'all that didn't know, I just got back from Vegas. And I was able to spend some time reading this amazing story, a story that I can relate to. And I think many of you can probably relate to it as well, especially if you're watching this thing. So let me read a little bit about Miss Law, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about Mental Health Awareness Month, and then we're going to bring Miss Law into studio. All right, Melody Law is a Washington, D.C. native, a proud mother of two who now resides in sunny Southern California. I'm so jealous. She possesses a bachelor's degree in psychology. Melody is a member of the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence and National Organization for Victim Assistance. This bio does not truly tell her story. I've heard this lady speak about domestic violence, mental health, and PTSD, narcissistic, personality disorder, surviving that, being in a relationship with someone with that. It's just so many things that I've heard her talk about, so much healing in her story. And I'm just so excited to be able to bring her here tonight so we can chat. And as I said, Mental Health Awareness Month is May. We're sitting in it now. And this month is really meant to just raise awareness of the trauma and the impact it can have on the physical, emotional, and mental well-being of not just myself, as an adult, but as children, as families as a whole, in our communities. And so I wanted to definitely save space for discussing mental health and the responses that we have to abuse and things of that nature during this month. And Melanie said she would come and share some of this wonderful book and some of her stories. So let's bring her on into the studio. Melody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Mel. Welcome to the Relationship Zone, the podcast. How are you tonight?
I am doing great, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You're over there in sunny California. I just left from your side of town. It's still bright and beautiful over there.
Actually, today we had kind of like a little mild overcast, but yeah, it's really bright and sunny right now. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's starting to kind of like wind down.
Yeah.
It's
And you're an East Coast girl. You are an East Coast girl.
Yeah, an East Coast girl, born and raised on the East Coast, and here I am over here on the West Coast now, and I'm totally adjusting just fine. God
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh
totally.
my goodness. Okay, I have to ask the question. Because
Okay.
you're from the same area I'm living in. So how's that traffic situation over there?
So I say it's horrible. I'm gonna be totally honest. It's horrible. And what I'm told is that it's not even as bad as it's supposed to get, because we're still in the pandemic, but things are starting to normalize, and it's a challenge.
Okay.
But I don't have to travel far. Everything that I do is totally right in my vicinity. So
okay.
Yeah.
So what about public transportation? Since I've never lived in Cali, But
Yeah.
I'm DC girl, so the whole Maryland, DC, DMV. I know how to get around from here. So how is public transportation over there?
I don't take public transportation, but most people hear Uber.
Oh,
They
okay.
either
Yeah.
Uber or Lyft or something like that. Yeah. And I will say, which is surprising, is that Uber and Lyft is very affordable here. I think because the
Nice.
population is so large and
Yeah.
so many people are using it. Like,
Mm.
yeah, depending on the time of day, I can take an Uber all the way from home to the airport, and it's only like 20 some bucks here.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Love it. Okay.
It's very affordable.
Okay, that's good. So, so when I do come through, because I'm definitely
Yeah.
coming back.
You gotta
I'm
visit. Yeah.
got to visit. I got
Get an invitation.
I got to visit. I need to see what Cali has to offer me. Okay, so listen, honey, I am
Let's jump
so
into it.
yeah, I'm so grateful to have you here tonight. As I was sharing earlier, when I was in out in Nevada, I had an opportunity to read this book, and it's a easy read. It's so interesting. I mean, I was out in I was on the horses with you. I was everywhere. But this book is so good, and it's filled with so many nuggets. I mean, I just one thing, I cannot thank you enough for writing this story. I believe with all the interviews that I've done with women that have endured the type of abuse that you speak of in this book, you wrote this for us, and I am so humbled by it, and I thank you so much for writing this
Don't get me
story.
emotional. That's so easy for me to do. Go ahead.
Well, I just hope that the ladies and the gentlemen that watch this interview or hear this interview, I do hope they go out and they read this book, because it is, one, you tell a story that many of us can relate to. And it was as if when I was reading some of the passages, I was like, wow, that was me. I went through that. I know what the character is feeling.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I want to know your why. Like, what was Melody's why for writing Charlie's Secret and for sharing parts of your own story as well?
Yeah. Honestly, what I can say is it had to be divine intervention. I had no intentions of writing a novel. However, I will say I've always wanted to write, but I never thought that it would have been my life story. And I would say it started with journaling, because I was literally going through a mental breakdown. I didn't know what was happening to me. And to process it, I felt like if I can compartmentalize and write it out in journaling and see it in a story, that I can own it, because so much of my reality had been manipulated. I didn't know what was real, honestly. Like, I didn't understand what was real, what was false. And I'm like, who am I? What is going on? So I started out with journaling. And then once I journaled and I could kind of see a correlation of what was going on, I said, you know what? Maybe if I put this into like a creative story and people can see this, they can kind of see themselves. So then that's what happened after that. Was I wanted to free people, liberate them, and I think that sometimes you think that you're by yourself. And I wanted the story to tell you, you're not alone. You're not the only person who's going through this. And not only that, you can free yourself from it. And there's a beautiful life on the other side.
Oh,
yeah, that was
that is so beautiful.
My whole reasoning why.
Yeah, I love it. That is so, so, so beautiful. So I know we talked earlier about, reading some excerpt from the book, right? I want, of course, for those that may not have the book yet, but they're going to get the book. I want them to hear, pieces of this story. So could you please pick and read one of the excerpts from the book for us?
Sure. Let's see. Okay, here's one. I'm going to read from the preface.
Okay. I'm going to follow along.
Okay. I had always made excuses for Mark. I had been living a lie, hoping the perfect family everyone saw out in public would one day become my reality in private. But that night, as I crouched to the kitchen floor in pain, my husband hesitated between taking me to the hospital and finishing what he had started with our son. Who on earth was this man I married? I was married to a malignant narcissist. All the signs were there. Everything aligned, but deep down inside, I wanted it to work. Having come from an abusive home, I knew for certain that this wasn't the kind of life I wanted for my children or myself. In hindsight, staying only created more damage than I could have ever imagined. If only I had loved myself enough to walk away. You know, and I think
Yeah.
that as survivors, and I guess at some point you are a victim before you become a survivor,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what in reality is what's happening is we got to learn to love ourselves, because what's
Yeah.
happening is we're loving the abuser more than ourselves. You
Yes.
know, we're trying to fix them, show them what real love is, and
Mhm.
then we try to get them to mirror us. Like if
Yeah.
I continue to forgive you, I'll show you what forgiving is like. What is it like to be selfless? When all the time, each time you do this, you're totally like neglecting yourself. You
Yeah.
know, you're totally
Yeah.
losing yourself in the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you
And
know,
there's almost like nothing left, honestly.
yeah, until you don't even recognize yourself.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened. I
You
didn't
no
know
longer
why,
recognize
but I
yourself.
no longer recognize myself.
Yeah, yeah. So let me share, I've shared this story before. And so when you read that, and of course when I read it, I was just like, absolutely. I often ask myself, like, why was I not honest? I know what I saw, I know what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
Why did I cover or protect, or why did I do any of those things? And the interesting thing that I personally did was my ex was and is an alcoholic,
Yeah.
and I remember, trying to confront him about the alcoholism, concerned about the alcoholism, realizing how how it was really just dismantling anything that we was trying to create. And I remember, knowing that he rejected any type of help or any type of recognizing what was going on, I decided to go and join some of the Al-Anon meetings so I could get help and understand. Yeah, so I
And
can learn
understand
how
so you can
to.
help him.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
like, because when you go to Al-Anon, you learn how to manage yourself in
Yeah.
this toxic environment.
Mhm.
And it was a wake-up call. I'm thinking, why am I here trying to get help for myself so that I don't respond or react to his alcoholism and his outbursts, versus just saying, well, if you do not want to get help and if you refuse to get help, then I'm going to just leave
Yeah.
the relationship. And I didn't until, some time later, but it was just a wake up call though, looking at how I was trying to adjust my own behavior so that I could keep him comfortable.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's the case, you know. And
Yes.
for me, what I found is everything was linked to childhood trauma.
Oh, yes.
So covering up for an abuser is something that's learned, you know, it's also
Yes.
learned. So you
Yes.
figure growing up as a kid, you know, your parents having a big fight or something happened, you learn to cover, you know, it becomes a norm, you know.
Yes.
You explaining why, you know, your parents, you know, didn't come to the PTA, or
Mhm.
someone can't come over, your friends can't come over and visit, you know, because
Mhm.
something heated must have just happened, or the
Right.
tension is a little thick in the house. So you learn to
You
cover, you
learn it.
know.
Yes. You
Unfortunately, you didn't learn it.
yeah,
That's
you
what you
do.
learn.
You do. What goes on in this house stays in this house.
There you go.
You learn it. You
Yeah.
learn. So you mentioned childhood trauma. So can you share
Yeah.
your thoughts, on childhood trauma, or as I call it, emotional depravity, and how it affects us and maybe show up in our adulthood relationships?
I'd say conditioning. Yeah,
Mm.
it conditions us. You
Yeah.
know, it teaches us that that's what's familiar, and if you have emotional depravity, you will then navigate right and be
Yeah.
attracted to relationships that aren't emotionally available,
Absolutely.
because that's what you are familiar with.
Mhm.
You know that's
Yeah.
those are the waters you learn to swim in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
So
It's some.
someone else who's a little more emotionally conscious or
Mhm.
healthy, you
Mhm.
know, when they get into a relationship with someone who's not available, they know, oh, this isn't right. Let me bounce. But
Yes.
for me, it was what I was used to. I was like,
Oh.
okay, yeah,
Mm.
unfortunately.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
now, so when you say was what maybe you were used to, where were you first introduced to like the emotional depravity or whatever tolerance level that you may have you saw show up in your adulthood? Where do you think you first saw that, or where were you introduced to that first?
By my parents, you know, and a
Hmm.
lot of times emotional depravity isn't always intentional. Sometimes parents are doing
Absolutely.
the best they can do with the
Yes.
tools that they have, you know.
Mhm.
So it could be a single parent working long hours, and you may be home a long time by
Yeah.
yourself, and you're coupled with maybe your video games.
Mhm.
For me, in my situation, I grew up in a two parent household.
Mhm.
My parents were married. They
Mhm.
were business owners, they were entrepreneurs, and they had multiple businesses in the city.
Mhm.
So just imagine being spread between those businesses. And I was
Yeah.
kind of felt like the only child because my sister's like 12 years my elder. And
Mhm.
I was home a lot by myself.
Mhm.
So my babysitter was a TV. I was the kid. And they had a very tumultuous relationship. It was probably because they worked together all day. They were together all the
Yeah.
time. That coupled with being married so young. My mom married my dad when she was like 16.
Mhm.
So 16, 17. Well, got pregnant when my sister was 16, married my dad around 16, 17, something like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
not making excuses, but I think they just did the best they could with what they had. And they were really trying to create a better life.
Yeah.
But in doing so, there were a lot of shortcomings that I, suffered from.
Right. And I get that. And I think there's a lot of us that, any of us have ever gone to therapy, we see the linkage from how we were raised, nurtured, or lack thereof,
Yeah.
and now how we show up in relationships.
What is it called? Nature versus nurture, right?
Nurture, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I will even share, and I've shared this before, that one of my discoveries was I had such a high tolerance for misbehavior, for toxic behavior, for neglect, for abuse, for things of that nature because of my mother. So growing up with my mom, she was very, very abusive. I only lived with her for like 4 or 5 years, but it was my formative years where I was exposed to understand. Well, I understood that this person's supposed to love me, but this is how she loved me, and it was abusive and it was painful, and it actually, it's like it strengthened my resilience, right, and or
Yeah.
my tolerance. And then when I got into the toxic relationship with the narcissist, he was familiar. He reminded me of my mother. And I tolerated it because, hey, I had already dealt with and I survived that. So yeah. So, but
But
I
see,
think that
oh, go ahead. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, no. I'm just saying. I think that when we go through the process of unpacking our stuff, we can see the link.
Yes.
We can see the linkage. So go ahead, please.
And my correlation was my father.
Hmm.
I would say if I had the opportunity to diagnose, which I don't, a lot of us loosely use the term
Yes.
narcissism and narcissists and stuff. But if I had to diagnose, my dad, I would say, was an overt narcissist,
Okay.
very arrogant. Like you knew he was coming when he came in the room,
Yes.
hard worker. But his, I think, was also brought on with his alcoholism.
Hmm.
And I knew that I always looked at my dad as he just has tough love. I understand it. So
Yeah.
then when I got into a relationship that mirrored him, I felt like same thing.
Yes.
I know how to work
Yes.
with this person. I understand him. So
Yeah.
basically, in a sense, I married my father.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 And he
Yes.
was, my dad was verbally abusive.
Mhm.
So I was conditioned to certain names and,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
hearing that,
Yes.
hearing that type of, that type of, verbiage, used in
Yeah.
language in the household.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that we have to definitely pay attention to because it's
Yeah.
there is a huge connection to
Mhm.
it. All
Mhm.
right. So this book
Yes.
is NPD, narcissistic personality disorders, all through it.
Yes.
Okay. Talk to me, sister. How has being exposed to NPD changed or even affected your life?
Mm. Unfortunately, I'm big on transparency.
Of course.
Somebody
Yes.
fully honest. It
Yeah.
has affected my life in the sense that you never heal from exposure to NPD.
Yeah.
You just learn how to maneuver, and
Mhm.
go on, move on with your life. You're totally affected forever. I mean, in everybody's life, what are we all? We are all a compilation of life experiences
Yes.
that makes us all who we are. You just have to learn to navigate beyond that. And I would say now I'm in a healing process. I think I always will be.
Yeah.
It's like healing and going through NPD is traumatic. People just don't know. It's so traumatic, and I think it's so underestimated. But I would say I have a issue with trust. You know, I don't let people in my space. I'm very, very guarded. My circle is very small, and I don't think that'll ever change. Because when you think about it, just imagine being married to someone for I was 24 years and some months, right? Just shy of 25 years. But being married to somebody for 25 years, this is someone that I birthed kids for. I shared my life with. I made so many sacrifices emotionally, physically, financially, and to find out that was all of us, it was all fake.
Yeah.
It wasn't real, you know? That can be so damaging to somebody. You know, it's like, how do you trust after that? And how do you know who's real and who's fake? You know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like after that, look at everybody's side eye, like, who are you?
Honey, ain't that the truth?
Who are you? Yeah.
You know, it's like you listen to them.
Yeah.
And then you listen past anything they say.
Yes.
Like, okay. All right. I hear you. So, you know, like I said, you know, I reading this book, there's so many things in here that I could relate to. And of course, I shared it out to several of my closest survivors, because what I realized is, like you said, the healing journey is nonstop.
It's nonstop.
Triggers are all around, from smells to places, spaces, conversations. I remember there was a time I couldn't even buy an item if it even remotely looked like his name was somewhere near it. And it had nothing to do with hating him. It had it was just, I was triggered by it. And so this book opened up a lot of my experience. I mean, I was just like, yes, yes, yes. I mean, you told the story so well, and I've shared it with so many people, and they're all saying the same thing. Like, oh my God, Queenie. Oh my God, I can't believe, you know, because they see themselves in this. So if you would, could you just read like one more excerpt from your book before we move on?
And that's why also why I wanted to express it in artistic fashion, because when I was going through it, as a survivor or as a victim at the time, you don't know what's happening, you know? And it's just like, if someone, even when you read about narcissism and you read about situations that are happening, it's like not until you can identify with something that mirrors what you're going through, then you're like, oh, aha, that's me, you know?
Yes.
I'll read another excerpt. Let's see.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll read the excerpt from chapter 1.
Okay.
And chapter 1 is entitled Love Bombed. And if you are familiar with NPD, you are aware that love bombed is where it all starts. Okay. But here we go. With trembling hands and black mascara running down my face, dissolved by my salty tears, I pulled out my fuchsia Fenty lipstick and wrote on my bathroom mirror. The light was on, but the room appeared dark. My vision was clouded by an overwhelming feeling of despair. What is real? What is truth? And who am I? Charlie lives here. I softly read out the words I wrote on the mirror. Charlie lives here. I repeated, hoping my level of conviction would rise with the sound of my voice. I could no longer distinguish between my reality and my imagination. My reality had been manipulated for many years until all that remained was a shell of who I used to be. My mind and my emotions were continually attacked by a man I called my husband for over 25 years. But how did it all begin? And why did it take me so long to figure out that something was wrong?
Girlfriend. Yes, yes. You know, you have read some really great excerpts from this book. I have 2 lines. Well, maybe a little more, but I have 2 that I want to read to you in the very beginning of the book. When I knew that this book was for me, and it's actually what I told my sister as well. So I'm going to read this really quick.
I would love to hear, because I love to hear from a reader's perspective.
It was so, so powerful. And I still plan to write an extra review out there, but it was so powerful as soon as I started reading this.
Okay.
The one question you said, do you know, well, not even a question, a statement. You said, do you know that one of the effects of dealing with a narcissist or an abuser, I say, is that you make excuses for them? This was my unfortunate reality. When the police came to question me about what happened, I told them I had fallen down the stairs. Yes, I lied to the police. That for me was profound because I saw myself doing the same thing before. And there's so many abused or survivors of abuse that have a very similar story. We've all lied. And people ask, well, why did you lie? And we're kind of stuck with the guilt and the
You
shame of
want to
knowing.
control the situation, you know.
And yes. And one of the other ones, and it's still in the preface, it's but narcissists are neither reasonable nor do they take accountability for their actions. And I learned that the hard way. I did the same thing. I learned the hard way thinking if I just explained it enough, he would finally get it and he would just own it.
Yes. Yeah, and we get so caught up with wanting to win. You know, we get so caught up with wanting to win, and we're like, if I can just explain it enough, and that person can have compassion and see what you're doing to your family, you know, what you're doing to me, and the whole situation. But what happens is you have to realize narcissists do not change. They are, and this isn't a medical terminology. I'm gonna just tell you what helped me understand.
Sure.
They're empty. They don't have an identity.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And however they can get some type of resource from you is what creates who they are. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like I got so caught up with winning, wanting to win my family over, and all the time I was losing.
Yeah.
So I just want to give a message to people. Don't get caught up in winning. Just focus on yourself. Narcissists will never, ever change. You cannot change them. Now, if you make a conscious decision or effort to say, I'm going to stay in this and I'm okay with things never changing, then that's your business. More power to you. But I'm going to tell you now, they never change. The only thing you can do in anybody's situation, whether it's a narcissist, physical abuse, whatever the situation is change yourself. We only have dominion over ourselves. That's it. Yeah. And I'm telling you, when you own and accept that, the world totally opens up.
It does.
And I'm like, I'm not just saying this. I'm totally talking about it from experience, you know.
Yeah.
And so I know for me,
go ahead, no, please. No,
I was just saying, like, for me, I had to totally own that and literally take a step, leap out in faith, and leave everything behind and start a whole new life. Because, you know, with narcissists, when you're trying to leave a situation like that, especially a malignant one, they do everything to discredit you. They try to ruin relationships with people that you may have in common, family members. Fortunately, it wasn't my children because my children lived it. So they knew. That's the thing, you know, when people in the household know what's really going on, you know? Like my children, both my kids are here, even though they're grown, they're here in California too.
Nice. Okay.
So I would just say, I know for me, I just had to totally leave everything, you know, behind. I walked away, the house, everything, even 3/4 of my clothes, you know, started over, you know, Target was my friend.
Yes, all right,
Target. I was like, all those high-end clothes I can't afford anymore, but yeah, Target.
That's okay, because guess what? You have peace of mind, and you can walk around in Target clothes, Family Dollar clothes, thrift store clothes, and honey, be so happy and so free. It does not even matter.
And like I told you, and I don't know if anybody else on a call or that'll be listening, I suffered from psychotraumatic trauma.
Yeah.
So I had physical things that were going on with me that I didn't understand what was happening. I mean, I was in the doctor's office. I kid you not the whole 25 years, but it had got to a point where it had built up so bad that I would say, around year 15, 20, I
Mhm.
had all types of things going on with me. I had anxiety, I had panic attacks, I had PTSD, I had trichotillomania. Trichotillomania is when you pull your hair out.
Yes.
Yeah, I had trichotillomania. I had heart palpitations. I
Oh my
had, I was a hypochondriac.
Mhm.
You know, I was having ischemia, like there would be things going on in my body, like sensations of heat.
Yes.
All of this was from long exposure to stress.
Mm,
And I
mhm.
would go to these doctors and they would tell me all the tests are coming up fine. There's nothing wrong. I mean, I would be at work. Holter monitor is it's a monitor that monitors your heart.
Yeah.
We're thinking there was some type of electrical impulses going on wrong with my heart.
Yeah.
No, it was all stress. Let me tell you, when I left everything behind, I had
Mhm.
not pulled my hair in a year plus,
Wow.
and that was big for me. I'm serious. All I
Yes.
had was, I mean, all my hair was like pretty much pulled out.
Oh.
Yeah, no panic attacks. Oh, I also
Mhm.
had developed phobias.
Mhm.
I started to have a phobia of driving,
Mhm.
heights. I'm telling you, when you are exposed to stress for that long of a
Mhm.
period, girl, it's,
Yeah.
it's so detrimental to your health. It is.
Oh my goodness. I am so glad that you made it out and
Yeah,
you chose yourself
yeah,
um, before totally losing yourself.
yeah.
So, I commend you. I need an applause button over here because I
Oh,
know I
thank
know
you.
it wasn't easy. You know,
Oh, no.
I know
It,
it
it,
wasn't.
remember I talked about being caught up in winning. So
Yes.
and I go into detail about it in the book. The house that we shared, it was totally in my name.
Wow.
I was the only one financially responsible, but both of us were on the deed.
Yeah.
So when I
Mm.
walked away, he stopped paying anything and stayed in the house. So
Oh.
that was a lot for me to swallow. And I had to say,
Mhm.
you know what? God has got me. He'll take care of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he blessed me with a new house. And like I said,
Wonderful.
yeah, you got to choose yourself.
You
You
gotta
got to
choose
choose yourself. Because
yourself.
I can only imagine where I'd be if I stayed in Maryland trying to fight.
Yeah.
So
No.
I walked
I
away and said, hell with it.
and of course, the listeners do not know exactly how you and I met each other, but
Yeah,
I know that big, beautiful home that you're talking about,
yeah,
and I'm so glad that you didn't continue to stay married to the home, to the
yeah,
property, um,
yeah,
because I think for so many we do. We stay connected to the status, to the things, to the
yeah,
years, to the thoughts and the opinions of others, while losing our own self, and sometimes losing our life. So I commend you greatly for choosing what you know to be right over
yeah,
something else to satisfy the onlookers, because
yeah.
they're not living your story.
And
You know.
that was, I will say, that was a crutch. That was a problem,
Yes.
we're trying to overcome as well because
Yeah.
you figure, especially in the Black community, we were coined as couple goals, you
Oh,
know,
yes. Yeah.
make a post and people will put the hashtag couple goals. I want to be
Yeah.
like you. So it's like, oh my God, I'm not
Right.
only letting down my community. I got to show them that, real love exists, but
Yeah.
this ain't real.
Yeah. This is what's better though, is being honest.
Yeah.
And actually, I think another thing in the Black community, we start talking about mental health. I don't believe that we label things enough. Label meaning as many other communities label, meaning as the psychology world labels, so that we can clearly define the behaviors and the actions versus just passing them off as just normal. That's just
Yeah.
who he or she is. So I think that it's great that you recognize what you were in, and you were able to articulate that in your journaling, excuse me, in your storytelling, because now this reaches so many more of us because it touches the heart. This is reality. This is something that I think many people go through, but they sometimes just pass it off. They sweep it underneath the rug. But you shook the rug and you letting us see the reality that you can have something beautiful that looks beautiful and great and amazing and couple goals, but then this is the secret that you're hiding.
Yeah, and there's a lot. Sometimes there's a lot. I'm not saying in all situations, but
Mhm.
there's sometimes darkness behind closed doors. And another thing that empowered me to also write is I wanted people to see what mental abuse looks like. Too often, I heard people say, or he would say, I would say my ex, my abuser, he would say things like, "Oh, you're acting like, you got black eyes." I'm like, "Whoa." But unfortunately, people in society, they kind of think that way. Like, unless it's something tangible that you can see,
Yeah.
it's not really given any type of credibility.
Right.
And mental abuse, man, it is real because
Yeah.
that kills people too. And it affects the people around them as well, the children,
Yeah.
you know, and that's a whole nother story.
Yes.
That's for them to tell, not for
Yeah.
me to tell. But yeah, it affects people around you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more, Melody, about your healing journey. You started your journaling. Um, Two questions, and then of course I want you to go into a little bit about the journey. How did you finally recognize from how did you recognize that this was bigger than just, some bad times in the relationship, some lows in the relationship? How did you really realize that you were fighting, and in this book, Charlie was fighting something way larger than just some lows in the marriage?
Yeah, I would say counseling.
Okay.
Yeah. So to back up a little bit, first
Sure.
I would say when I was going through and didn't know what was happening, I think it's important for people to still create a healthy circle or community for themselves, an outlet. For me, it was horses, So I had gotten into the Black equine community in my neighborhood or in our area, in the DMV, as we say, DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, and that gave me a safe place, and somewhere where I can kind of like be myself and feel safe and have healthy relationships that were outside of my marriage to sustain myself.
Okay.
Um, and then I would say, moving forward, when that wasn't enough or sufficient, I went to get counseling. And that's when in counseling, I would express what I was going through.
Mhm.
And, the counselor's like, that's not normal. And I will say, is my counselor did not diagnose. Okay, this is what I'll say. My counselor had the privilege of seeing both me and the ex, right, at
Okay.
some point in time.
Mhm.
And what she did was she sent me a email, and the email was how to um, recover from NPD abuse.
Wow.
And that right there was powerful
Yeah.
because we all loosely use the term, oh, he's a narcissist. And a lot of times, a lot of narcissists think that people who create boundaries against them are narcissists,
Our narcissist.
which is my ex, like he's got a
Yeah.
whole YouTube page saying that he's a life coach and he's the victim of narcissism.
Right.
But for me, you figure my therapist, she didn't diagnose him and say, HIPAA laws and stuff, you can't do that. But she sent me, some literature. And the literature is how to overcome narcissistic abuse. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? So I read that, and that was a start. So that was a start in my healing, was therapy, I would say.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Look, I can relate. Been there, done it, honey. Been there, done it. So I know that you again are an East Coast girl, and you
Yeah.
have now made your new home, whether it's permanent or temporary. You've made your new home across all the way on the other side to the West Coast. So, why, even like I say, even reading the book and seeing, how you evolved and how you began to grow and realize what was going on, and you articulated it so well. But why do you think your journey has led you all the way to the West Coast, writing, becoming an amazing author, advocating publicly and openly telling this story and telling your story, being so transparent. Why do you think that's, has become your path? Because I know not everyone is going to do it that way.
Yeah.
Why did it become your path?
I would say I don't take any credit. I think it's just divine intervention.
Yeah.
The way things lined up once I decided to take a leap of faith, by saying, look, I mean, that says a lot to walk away from a house that you're the only one financially tied to and say that, hell with it, I'm gone.
Right.
And then to move 3,000 miles away to a state where you got no family or friends, I only knew a couple people. So that was a lot. So I would say I don't take any credit. I think that I just want people to see that if I can do the almost impossible, that anything is possible.
Yes. Anything is possible.
Yeah, anything is possible.
Oh my God. Yes. And it took courage, girl. Courage, boldness, faith.
Girl.
I mean, the tenacity.
All I can say is when I tell you faith, this is just an example of the level of faith, how I really had to take a leap of faith and trust God. I put a contract on a house I had never stepped foot in. Never. I didn't step foot in this house until the day of closing. And I think that God talks to us all, but a lot of times we don't listen because we want what we want. But guess who knows best for us? Your Father, the Father.
Absolutely.
He knows what's best. But we sit there and we keep on trying to pray, oh, change his heart, God. Soften his heart, make him a little more compassionate. No, God is telling you, girl, move.
Giving every sign.
It doesn't mean move 3,000 miles away. I'm not saying that, but it's just saying like move on. Move on with your life. Take that next step, and I'll carry you the rest of the way.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. So let me just, I know we're about to wrap up, but I want to make sure I touch a little bit on the horses. My daughter, first of all, she is an animal science major. She loves animals.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, she loves animals.
Fantastic.
I've taken her up to Maryland, to Piscataway horse riding stables. All in love. Of course, that's kind of our thing. We're doing a little bit more often now that the pandemic is where it's at.
That's a diamond in the rough. That's a beautiful place. And it has
oh my God, it is so amazing. And so when I saw it in the book, I just giggled. I was just like, oh my God, this is right in the street. This is what she's talking about. So tell me, what did you love most from spending so much valuable time with your horses?
Oh man, first I want to also include and incorporate not just the horses, but the equine community. And what I learned is that there are good people in the world. It's okay to trust again. Everybody is not manipulative. Everyone's not out to get you or abusive, but there are really good people in the world. And that's what I would say I learned about the horse community. And then with my horses, for me, they help build self-esteem. They help me temper my emotions because when you ride horses are so sensitive. They feed on your energy. They know when you're tense, you're uptight, So I knew that if I was going to ride and want to have a calm, relaxing ride, I had to be calm myself. So it helped me with like breathing techniques and things like that. In meditation, I started doing things like that, and I knew that I had to do that in myself if I wanted the better or best outcome from my horses.
Yes. Yeah. So tell me, Black girl with horses. I love it. I love it. I grew up on a farm, honey. Listen, I've seen everybody with horses, right? But it was so beautiful, of course, because I know your ex, and I used to see the beautiful pictures that he would share of you on your horse, and I'm just like, she's so beautiful, But I mean, do you still ride? And I mean, you're out in
girl, my horses are here. I relocated my horses here. I used to have 3, but the kids are grown now, so I kept 2 of them. And they're here, not far from me. Like literally, I say probably about 3 miles from here.
Yeah.
So yeah, oh my gosh, they're part of my world. I love them so much. I mean, like I said, they sustained me
Oh,
through such
wonderful.
rough periods in my life.
Yeah.
It's something about the horses that they're such majestic beasts, but
Mm-hmm.
so angelic. They're so powerful and so humble.
Yeah.
It teaches you
Yeah.
such humility. Like this is a animal that's on an average of 1,500 pounds.
Yes.
But they allow you to help maneuver and move, in
Yes.
maneuver in using its modes of
Yeah.
transportation.
Yeah.
And that's a humbling
Oh,
experience.
yes. Yes.
You
And
know,
they're wonderful. I
oh my
love
gosh.
horses. We just went riding a couple weeks ago, and I felt this guilt of riding on. It was, I don't know. I love animals. I felt this
Yeah.
guilt, and I think the whole time we were riding, for some reason that day, I was just super sensitive, and I was like, "Are you okay?" Like I was just so sensitive over our trek up through the trails.
Yeah.
But there's a beautiful love that you can experience with such a huge creature. you know um
Mhm.
yeah, so it's wonderful. So how did they adjust with them, you taking them from here to there, and in their new stables? Have they adjusted well been over there?
Yeah, they've adjusted well now. I will say it was a transition for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Because to get them trailered here, they were on the trailer for like almost a week, so that's a
Oh,
long
yeah.
time. So once they got here, they were a little, sore and a little uneasy and
Of
things like
course.
that. But I would say it took them about a good 3 months to settle in. And
Yeah.
not only that, the terrain here is different. So you figure on the East Coast, you have trees and
Yes.
woods and
Yes.
grass, right?
Yes.
And you got canyon, desert.
Poor
So,
baby.
and then a lot of cliff, you got
Yeah.
like high altitudes and riding and
Mhm.
things like that. So it was an adjustment not only for them but for myself as well.
For
But
you, yeah.
we're
Oh
good
my
now.
goodness. Well, I'm glad you got your babies with you, and I'm glad your boys are with you as well.
Yes, I can only thank God. Yeah, I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so glad.
Well, as you see, Jackie Green said that they miss you.
Oh, and I miss them too. Let me tell you something. There's no place like Piscataway. I don't care where
Yeah.
you go. Even though I got like palm trees and sunny skies
Yeah.
and great weather, is nothing like Piscataway.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
If I could just take that place and sit in
Right.
here in California.
Oh, don't worry. I'm holding down for you because we're visiting like once or twice a month. So definitely I'll hold it down for you.
Yeah, yeah.
So from our chat, from our comments, we have a question, and you can definitely take a stab at this. Norman just asked, what causes someone to be an abuser?
So one thing I also say, no matter what I've gone through, I think that, and that's what I want also people, and I express it in my book as well,
Mhm.
compassion, and understanding and educating yourself. And what you find is the abuser was once abused. The abuser is a victim too.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I have compassion, but that doesn't mean I need, I have to keep a relationship with
That's
them.
right.
But I understand, and it helps me with the process to move on and forgive. So that's what I would say is what causes one to be the abuser is that they were once abused. Hurt
Yes.
people hurt people.
Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And one other question from Norman, he asked, are a lot of abusers narcissists, or if not most abusers narcissists?
I'm not a clinician.
Yeah.
So I like to give that disclaimer first.
Yes.
So what I'm going to say, my answer is just opinion. Okay, it's public opinion. And I think that I would say most abusers are. If there was probably some studies done, and if I did enough research or we did enough research, I think there's a deep correlation between narcissism and abusers.
Right.
I would definitely think so. There would have to be a high number percentage or
Right. And I agree with you. I'm not a clinician either. I have a lived experience, and I think that is just as valuable. I would say that I do believe that there's a difference between someone with narcissistic tendencies
Yeah.
and someone with that we could fully from the DSM-5 say that they are NPD on the NPD spectrum high, like they're there, right?
Right.
Because I think there's a bit of narcissism, for any of us to have the confidence that it takes to move around, and we have to have a bit of narcissism, right? Some,
Of course. Yeah.
but the MPD, the abuser that we're talking about, they truly have a disorder or disease,
Yes.
and that is a totally different, it's just a different animal, because then you got to get into malignant, covert, overt,
Over. Right.
cerebral. You got all this, all
Yeah.
these, you got to break it all the way down. So are all abusers narcissistic, or are all abusers NPD? Maybe some are very narcissistic and many are cowards, to be quite honest, because they kind of throw the rocks and hide their hand. So many, I would say many probably do have have some level of narcissism that kind of exceeds any normal level of narcissism.
Yeah.
It's difficult because I've known some abusers, like I said before, they may have other mental disorders that are not necessarily linked to narcissism.
Yeah.
And they become abusers, physical. I think that mind manipulators, though, are a different animal altogether.
Yeah, and I think to add on to that, you make a very valid point, and that is, I think that most abusers have some type of mental imbalance.
Yes.
I should say that. Maybe not necessarily NPD, but I would say some type of mental health imbalance, whether it's schizophrenia, some type of personality disorder,
Right.
some type of unresolved childhood trauma. I think that there's some type of mental illness or mental health imbalance there. Whether it's necessarily NPD, I would say a great vast majority of them.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not a health clinician. I don't claim to be.
Yeah.
I don't claim to
Just,
be. And I think that a lot of times we loosely throw around the term narcissism or narcissist, and you got to be careful with that because, like you said, we all have that trait.
yeah.
And it's a healthy trait to
Yes,
have.
it is.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's just that a narcissist or someone with NPD, they don't even have the capability to empathize.
Absolutely.
And not only that, they go to any extent to get what they want. And they don't understand who they hurt and how someone is hurt in the process. They don't understand and can't perceive the destruction. And they do anything to any extent to get what they want. They will lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, anything. And that's the difference between someone who has a little bit of narcissism or narcissistic tendencies and a narcissist. A personality disorder. And I would say
disorder.
Yeah, and then someone who is malignant, and if they don't get their way, they're very vengeful. And in my case, that's what I dealt with. Someone who created a smear campaign against me through social media, has a whole channel, to smear my name, to play the victim. They will do things like I've been filed false charges against so that I can lose my job and it would mess up my my security clearance at work. So they go to the extreme to vindicate, to be vindictive.
Yes,
so hopefully that answers anyone's question when people say, like, what's the big deal of narcissism? It's bigger than, oh, you got a guy and he's cheating.
That's right.
Like, we're human,
Right.
Things happen. I'm not saying it's okay, but we're human. Just because you cheat, you may be narcissistic, but you don't have narcissism personality disorder.
That's right.
You had some type of extramarital affair or cheated on, your partner. Like, no.
There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between someone that stepped out, cheated, had an affair, and someone that is absolutely disordered and would turn around and tell you that the affair is all your fault. That's a totally different. That's different. And I do believe, I think we have to, whenever we talk about narcissism, that's why I'm so quick to say, like, there's a difference between narcissist or
And
narcissistic kind of tendencies and
mhm.
narcissistic personality disorder. Because sometimes I think we believe narcissists are just ego driven. The
Right.
disorder is so much more. It
It's
actually
so
should
bigger than
be,
that.
it should be criminalized. That's how
Yeah.
bad the abuse can become from a person that has NPD and oftentimes are not diagnosed. Instead, we have to have a conversation about the behaviors and then match it up with when the therapists give you a video, right? Or you read a DSM-5 book and you're like, wait a minute, I've seen. That's when you really realize what you're dealing with.
I'm so glad you touched on that because I know for me, my abuser was so vindictive. I mean, he will, I mean, I was audited by the IRS. Like anything this person can do,
Yeah.
things were done to try to destroy me.
Mm-hmm.
And the unfortunate thing is, mental abuse is not recognized like in the state of Maryland is law grounds for divorce. So
Right.
there were many times where I've gone to an attorney and I'm trying to explain to them this is what is happening to me, and they were like,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have proof of physical abuse, this isn't enough.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you serious? And
Yes.
that's unfortunate, that's
Mhm.
unfortunate.
It's so unfortunate. And I do believe that unfortunately this is how many homicides occur from
Yes.
domestic violence, because if it's not seen, it didn't happen.
Mhm.
And
And
we,
suicides.
and suicides.
Yeah.
Melody, we have to continue to have these conversations until one day we're sitting on Capitol Hill having this conversation. Because that people understand that this is just as damaging as a fist to the face, if not worse.
Yeah. Most definitely.
If not worst. So we have a couple of different comments coming through, and I know we're gonna wrap it up. Norman,
Right.
thank you so much for sending us so many messages. Norman shared that he's been diagnosed with CPTSD.
Okay.
Um, and let's
Oh,
see,
that's
most
beautiful that
abusers
he's sharing
don't.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you
yeah.
so much for
Yeah,
sharing
thanks for
that.
sharing that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Most abusers do not change. That is so, so true. He says that's a fact. Um, we all have narcissistic traits. There is a spectrum and they have it too much. That is true. Yeah, they have a little extra. um,
Yeah.
and we have to be careful when not to empathize so much with the abuser that we stay accepting their behavior because we feel sorry for that 9-year-old child that keeps showing up in our relationship. Whenever they lash out, it's like they just revert back to being that 9, 10, 12-year-old kid that experienced their own abuse. We have to be careful not to over empathize with them or we'll stay in it. So we have to be careful. So it's a slippery slope, but if you're listening, there's so much help out there, and you can always leave us messages, and I will send you all kinds of information to support you and in some support groups, because we just have to be we have to be careful. I wish it was criminalized, Melody. I really do, because of the damage that I see this personality disorder doing to so many people, intentionally and unintentionally,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
And I would, before we leave, I just want to let people know that
Sure.
you're in a dilemma where you're trying to figure out whether or not you should stay. I'll say being in a narcissistic relationship, or being in a narcissistic abusive relationship, it kills all your potential. Like, I'm totally a testimony. Like,
Yeah.
and I say this because you spend your waking day and hour trying to figure out, at some point it gets so bad, you're trying to figure out what's going on. How do I piece this together? You're trying to juggle work, you're managing your marriage, how to fix everybody. If you take all of that time and energy, right, on bettering yourself, you will find
Um,
out what your real potential is.
yes.
You know,
Yes.
and I feel as though for myself, I have achieved in 1 year, or a year and a half, I'd say 18 months,
Hmm.
more in a year and a half than I did in almost 15, 20 years.
Wow.
And that's what happens. It's like you let the floodgates open, because now you can take all that time and energy and focus on, you know,
Yeah.
improving yourself,
Yes.
finding out what your gifts are. Who is you? Who are
Yeah.
you? What do you really like? What do you really want out of life? What are your dreams? Pursue your dreams. There's too much energy. I remember one time, and I had like a revelation, and I was like praying, and I would say, every now and then, God, soften his heart. God, help show him. And then one time, I literally in my head, and I know it was God talking to me, like, because it's a thought.
Yeah.
God said, seek me like you seeking that man.
Wow.
And I'm going to show you some amazing things. Stop praying for him and pray to me.
Yes.
Pray for me to be evident in your life and not a man. And once you seek me first, everything else will fall into place. And that's exactly what I did. But just to let people know, man, they never change. Focus on yourself, lead. And then one morning I'll say, never confront a narcissist. If you think
don't bother.
I talk about it in the book, and the title is called Plotting. Okay.
Yes.
Plotting. If you feel as though your spouse is a narcissist and you're leaving, never put all your cards on the table and say that you're leaving.
Never.
You plan discreetly. You save your money. You get your credit together. You slowly find where you want to live. You plan this and then you execute. But that's what I talk about also in the book.
Yes.
So it's not just talking about the abuse or uncovering childhood trauma. It's also steps to take on how to get out of the situation, how to create a healthier community and space to help you sustain as you go through it. Through the healing process, and how to also cultivate new healthy relationships. Yes. And another thing I like to add, don't jump from one relationship to another. Narcissistic abuse is very damaging, very. And when you go through something like that, you're not emotionally equipped. No matter how much you think you've come out of it, you want to experience love, you're only going to re-victimize yourself. You're not emotionally equipped to jump into another relationship. You have got to do the work and slowly heal yourself, so that you can gravitate towards you, the love, that you want to give and you can receive.
Yeah. Yes. And you said it already, Mel. You said that the healing process, it's continual. It's not, I've escaped, I've left, and now I'm better. No, there is, you still have a process, but you got to plan, you got to plot. You got to, you got to
come home and say, I'm leaving you.
You got to leave in the cloak of darkness.
You be like me, all of a sudden get filed theft charges and IRS audit. You be like, whoa, what happened?
I just wanted to leave. No.
I just wanted to leave. They're like, the hell you will. You will leave and not have a job. You will leave and be in jail somewhere. So.
Yes. While they are smearing your name. So Tammy left us a message. She said, I love the podcast content and the book is amazing. So proud of you, Melody Law. Please continue to educate and make our community aware of the many disorders. Absolutely, Tammy. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And we're going to shift up out of here. This is from Pink Girl Teaches. That's our girl, Joy.
Hi.
This is an awesome conversation. Thank you for this. Thank you for joining us, Joy. We love you and we love the work that you're doing out there. You recognize who that is, right, Melody?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Oh my God. I love her work. She is always putting it down. So anyone watching, y'all go follow Pink Girl Teaches. If you want to know anything else about narcissism, please go follow
one of the authentic ones, I will say.
I love her. And she knows her stuff. I love it.
Yes.
And so Norman, he says, I'm from England. Where do I purchase your book? Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. So you can purchase my book through Amazon. So he's in England.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's worldwide. So whatever his link is for Amazon, you can do that. I'm also available on Target.com. I don't know if they have Targets. I don't know if they have Targets in England. Yeah, Walmart. What else?
Walmart as well?
Yeah, Barnes and Noble.
Are you everywhere?
I'm almost everywhere. We're getting there.
I love it. Oh my goodness, Barnes and Noble. Okay. So we're
Yes.
gonna just throw that up there real quick. So here you go. Check it out. You can go and get the book. I think I ordered it from Amazon. I
Okay.
think so.
Oh, you ordered Amazon? Yeah, and it's also ebook is there, and we're working on now an
Nice.
audiobook. So hopefully an
Okay.
audiobook will be available in the next 60 days. We'll see.
All right. I love it. So Norman, I hope that you got that. Amazon. I think, I mean, of course you can order on Amazon
Yeah,
in
and make
England.
sure there's another Charlie's Secret. So if you pay attention to the cover, make sure you can just search Charlie's Secret by
Mhm.
Melody Law,
Yes.
and you have the various links that it's available.
Yes, yes, yes. Look, don't worry, don't worry. Our viewers are holding us down. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
They
you
are
so much for having me. And hopefully somebody
absolutely.
benefits from this conversation. And it's
Yes,
just really nice to have this very informal, chat. I'm
yes,
sitting here, girl, sipping my tea on the
yes.
couch. Okay.
That's what we do here. That's what we do here at the Relationship Zone. We talk about love, life, and all things relationships. I want people to
Yeah.
be comfortable. I want you to know it's a safe space. And it's a space where we learn from each other. We talk, we share our own lived experiences. And
Yeah.
oftentimes I do have subject matter experts, but I love learning from those that has lived the life. And so I appreciate you coming, offering your story, writing this amazing book, and just being in my own healing circle. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. Like I said, people don't know our story, but I just appreciate that the universe decided to link us together,
Yes.
and I'm able to watch what you're doing and saving the
Thank
lives
you.
that you're saving and changing. So I'm so honored by that.
Thank you so much, Queenie. And I thank
Yeah.
you for also being authentic, and organic. You're
Yes.
so real. And I always talk about that, like one of the real ones, one of the
Yes.
few. So
Yes.
I truly appreciate that. And you rely very much so on
Yeah.
your knowledge,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not always opinion, so
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
I appreciate that for sharing your knowledge with the
Yeah.
community and helping us become better.
Absolutely, absolutely. So to our viewers, I just want to thank all of you that viewed and watched and shared this show. You'll be able to find it. It'll be on YouTube, of course. You'll be able to find it on Facebook. You'll also be able to find it on our podcast, which will be uploaded here in a couple of days. You'll be able to catch it on Spotify, Apple, Google, and all those other wonderful places that you listen to your podcast. And so, with that being said, one, I want you all to go over and like the page, subscribe, do all the things that you need to do so that you don't miss any more podcasts. But, Melody, is there anything that you want to leave with the viewers or the listeners before we wrap up tonight?
Yes, I also want to tell people if you're in a situation like this, whether it's just physical abuse, any type of abusive situation, in the meantime, don't get discouraged if you can't find it out immediately. I understand sometimes there are financial challenges. There may be some other challenges hindering you for you to not be able to make the move as quickly and swiftly as you want to. But in the meantime, be patient with yourself. Find a safe space. And I also say that some type of outlet is so important and necessary. I know for me it was horses. Everybody ain't into horses, but it can be crocheting. I mean, I don't know, roller skating, going to the gym. You have got to preserve your mental health space in the meantime and be patient with yourself and just slowly plan. And I'm telling you, develop your relationship with God. And once you put your trust and faith in Him, I'm telling you, He will carry you the rest of the way.
Oh my God. Yes, yes. Melody, I
Yes.
have to say to you, thank you so much for this. And
Thank you again for having me.
yes, I wouldn't have had it any other way. You writing this book, telling your story, and for people that really know you and know the history, know your ex and all those things, we've seen you stand in spite of. And it's amazing for me to witness firsthand the courage that it has taken for you to do this. And I just love what you're doing for our community. And I say our community, I'm speaking of one, Black women, two, women and survivors of abuse, especially those being abused by NPD. So I'm so thankful for what you're doing. Continue the great work. Um, be not weary in well doing. Yes, be not weary in well doing, because I know it has not been easy.
No,
Uh,
it has
I know it has not, but know that people like myself are praying for your strength, and we are sending you love, light, and all things positive over there on that West Coast, because your journey is just beginning. You know, because you're telling a story that so many of us can relate to, and it is powerful, and it's reaching across to England.
yes,
Saving
yes.
and impacting lives. So thank you, Melody, for what you're doing, and thank you for stopping by the Relationship Zone.
Thank you. And telling everybody thank you for being on and listening, sending everybody love, light, and healing. Mwah!
Yeah,
All right.
you are welcome here anytime, anytime. Okay.
Everyone. All right. Bye,
All right,
everybody.
Melody.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. Melanie is so amazing. I had such a great time talking with her. Listen, go get this book. Go get the book. There's so much food in it for you to eat. And I think it's going to help save and change lives. So thank you all for watching and for tuning in. Go out there and follow Melody Law. You can follow her on all the social media. You can also check out the Relationship Zone pages, and her contact, her follow will be there. And if you need any other information, leave us a message, leave me a note on Facebook or on IG or even on YouTube, and I'll try to get the information to you. So thank you again for joining me tonight. It's your girl, Queenie. I am out of here. And remember to always be kind and be courageous and be you. I'll talk to y'all soon.